You know, Mom, Olivia just gets it. She's not a failure like you. That's what my daughter said to me, in front of 50 people, on her father's birthday. She smiled when she said it like it was a fact, not an insult, and everyone laughed politely, thinking it was just a joke. But I wasn't laughing. I was staring at the young woman I had raised alone for nearly 2 decades. The girl I had worked overtime for, gone into debt for, chosen over myself every single day. And in that moment, something inside me didn't break, it hardened. Because I realized I was the only one still playing the martyr in a game everyone else had left behind. That night, I didn't cry. I calculated. And within a week, I took everything back: her car, her tuition, her comfort. She called me cruel. But what she didn't know was, I had finally stopped being a failure. For most of my adult life, I disappeared behind duty. I was Evelyn Blake, CPA by profession, doormat by design. When Matthew and I divorced, I didn't fight for the house. I didn't push for full custody. I just wanted peace. Emma was 13 then, old enough to make her own judgments, and I believed love would be enough to keep our bond intact. I paid for her private high school, even when Matthew stopped contributing. I paid for her braces, her piano lessons, her summer camps. When she got into college, I celebrated alone with a cheap bottle of Prosecco. Matthew took her out to dinner in a limo. Olivia, his new wife, bought her a diamond necklace. I smiled through all of it, because I believed my time would come, the day Emma would see who had been in her corner all along. That day never came. Instead, she started talking like Olivia. She started calling my apartment small but cute. She'd compliment my outfits with a, "That's actually not bad, Mom," as if surprised I could wear anything remotely fashionable. She stopped saying thank you for anything, because in her mind, everything I gave her was just expected. And Matthew? He loved being the fun parent. Olivia made sure of it. Designer bags, rooftop brunches, spa weekends for no reason. She was always just trying to build a relationship with Emma, but somehow I was always the one footing the real bills. Even my emails to the university came from my account. Even the car Emma drove, an older Volvo I paid in cash for, was referred to as the car Dad gave me. They didn't just take my money, they took my identity. But I kept telling myself, it's fine, it's part of being a mom, until the night of Matthew's birthday party. I wasn't supposed to go, Emma had said. It's mostly just Dad's colleagues and Olivia's friends. It might be awkward. But I went anyway. I brought a bottle of wine and wore the one nice black dress I had, the one I used to wear to conferences when I still believed promotions were possible. And I stood there quietly while Olivia took center stage, toasting Matthew with a glowing speech about how real families are built on understanding, not guilt. Then Emma stood up. She thanked Olivia for being the kind of woman who inspires me every day. And just before she sat down, she said it casually, confidently, cruelly. "You're not a failure like my mom." There was laughter. Not from everyone, but enough. I stood there, heart pounding, cheeks burning, wine glass shaking in my hand. And I realized, maybe I hadn't failed at being a mother. Maybe I had just failed at setting boundaries. But not anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. I lay on my couch still in that black dress, still wearing makeup I hadn't bothered to wipe off, staring at the ceiling while Emma's words looped through my mind. "You're not a failure like my mom." My daughter said that, my daughter. By morning, my throat was raw from silence and my chest ached from holding in what I really wanted to scream. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I opened my laptop. There it all was, neatly documented. Spreadsheets, payment logs, auto debits, monthly tuition transfers, car insurance, health insurance, meal plan top-ups, a paper trail of devotion. A digital biography of a woman who had quietly, efficiently, financed her daughter's life while being told she was irrelevant. I clicked through every line item and thought, no more. At 7:03 a.m., I called the financial office at the university. "Hi, this is Evelyn Blake. I need to cancel the upcoming tuition installment for Emma Blake." The woman on the phone sounded surprised. "Is there a particular reason?" "Yes," I said calmly, "because my daughter is an adult, and she no longer respects the person paying her bills." Click. I moved on. Next came the car insurance cancellation, then the removal of her name from my credit card. I disabled the emergency Venmo account, changed the Netflix password. Petty? Maybe. But power doesn't return in grand gestures, it creeps in through small acts of reclaiming. By 9:00 a.m., I had completed what I called my quiet divorce from martyrdom. And then the calls started. Emma first. 5 missed calls in a row. Then a text. Mom, my card isn't working. Did something happen? Then, wait, where's the car? I parked in the student lot. I waited 5 more minutes before replying. I canceled the card, and I took back the car. It was in my name. You're 20, Emma, it's time. Her response came so fast it was almost impressive. You're being insane. I need those things. I have exams. I need to eat. I took a breath and typed carefully. There's a cafeteria. You'll be fine. I believe in your ability to survive without belittling the woman who raised you. She didn't reply. But a new number popped up on my screen, Matthew. I knew that tone before he even spoke. Entitled, scolding, performative concern. What the hell are you doing, Evelyn? You can't just leave her without support. I smiled. Oh, Matthew, support is a two-way street. You and Olivia have been driving a one-way lane straight through my bank account for years. Time for a detour. He spluttered, tried to argue legalities, agreements. I reminded him that our agreement included clauses about demonstrated disrespect. He didn't even remember signing that clause. I hung up, walked to the window, and looked out at the quiet morning light spreading over the city. For the first time in years, I wasn't tired. I was awake. And I was just getting started. By the afternoon, word had clearly spread. First came another call from Emma. This time, she left a voicemail. Mom, this is so unfair. I didn't mean what I said. You're blowing things way out of proportion. Can we please talk? I listened to it twice. Not once did she say, I'm sorry. Then came Olivia. She called me from her personal number, something she'd never done before. Her voice was dipped in syrup, artificial sweetener laced with poison. Evelyn, I just wanted to reach out woman to woman. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Emma's very distressed, and this whole situation is impacting her academic focus. I let her finish. Then, Olivia, the misunderstanding here is yours. You misunderstood my silence for permission. That ends today. A pause. Then she laughed softly, like I was being dramatic. You know, being a mother means being the bigger person. I almost laughed too. Being a mother means teaching your daughter not to spit in the face of the person feeding her. You've had your fun playing the glamorous second wife. Now it's your turn to contribute. You can't expect me to. I don't expect anything from you, Olivia. That's the difference between us. I don't expect other women to carry my weight. I hung up. An hour later, Matthew showed up in front of my apartment. I didn't invite him up. I met him in the lobby, arms crossed, spine straight. I just spoke with Olivia, he said. She's really shaken. Oh, good, I said. Now she knows how I've felt for 4 years. You're punishing Emma for a comment she made in the heat of the moment. I stared at him. She called me a failure, Matthew. At your birthday party, surrounded by your friends, she humiliated me, and the only thing you did was raise your glass. He looked away. I didn't want to embarrass her. And I suppose I was the acceptable casualty. He sighed. Look, can't you just ease off a little? Help with her car again? Maybe send the tuition next month while we figure things out? You mean while Olivia finishes spending the spa package I unknowingly financed last week? He flinched. Good. He wasn't used to me keeping score, but I'd learned fast. I'm not sending another $1, Matthew. Not one. If Emma wants to drive, she can take the bus. If she wants to study, she can apply for a loan. If she wants sympathy, she can ask her not a failure stepmother. This isn't you, he muttered. You've changed. You're right, I said. It's not me. It's the woman who finally woke up. He left without another word. I went back upstairs, poured a glass of wine, and turned on the classical playlist I used to love, but never had time for. The silence that followed wasn't hollow. It was earned. That Friday, I did something I hadn't done in over a decade. I took a full day off, no client calls, no inbox checking, no spreadsheet maintenance, just me, a city map, and time. I walked. Not because I had an errand, not because Emma needed something picked up or dropped off, but because I wanted to see who I was when no one else was asking anything of me. I ended up in a bookstore downtown. It smelled like ink and quiet. The kind of place I used to love before life turned into invoices and tuition payments. I bought a novel. A novel. Not a tax guide or personal finance manual, a story for pleasure. Then, passing a mirrored shop window, I caught sight of myself. My posture was straighter. There was a softness to my face I hadn't seen in years, like a woman returning to her own skin. So I kept going. A cafe, a boutique, a beauty salon. I booked a haircut on a whim and walked out feeling 10 pounds lighter. At home that evening, I opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for something special and lit a candle I had forgotten I even owned. And as I sat there, dinner for one, music low, I realized I wasn't lonely. I was full. Not of food or drink, but of space. Space that had once been occupied by guilt, exhaustion, and Emma's endless needs. For the first time in years, I didn't check her location on Find My Friends. I didn't calculate if her card had been declined or if she made it to class. I didn't scan my email for tuition reminders. I just existed. And the world didn't collapse. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. Voicemail. Hi, this is Danielle from the University Financial Aid Office. Emma Blake listed you as her primary payer, but since you've rescinded support, we wanted to inform you she has applied for emergency assistance. Just keeping you updated. Thank you. I smiled. It wasn't spiteful, it was proud. She was figuring it out. Later that day, I sat down with a pen and notebook and wrote a question at the top of the page. What would I do if I wasn't just someone's mother? It felt like betrayal just writing it, but beneath that guilt was something else: curiosity, hunger. So I made a list. Take dance classes again. Travel alone, even just for a weekend. Join a women's financial independence group. Launch the budgeting workshop I used to dream of. Start living like my time matters. The more I wrote, the more alive I felt. This wasn't revenge. This was resurrection. And the best part? I wasn't waiting for anyone's permission anymore. 3 days later, my phone rang again. This time, it was Emma. Her voice cracked before she even said hello. Mom, I got denied for the emergency grant. My professor pulled me aside after class. I haven't been turning in work. I'm behind. I'm scared. I stood in my kitchen holding the phone, hand frozen above a pot of boiling water. I wanted to wrap her in my arms. I wanted to fix it. But that's what I always did. And it hadn't made her grateful, it had made her entitled. Emma, I said, voice calm but firm. You're 20 years old. You are not helpless. You are uncomfortable. That's different. Silence. Then, the old tone crept back in. You're doing this because you want to punish me. For one comment. No, I said. I'm doing this because for 4 years, I allowed you to live in a world where you believed comfort was owed and consequences were optional. But I'm your daughter. Yes, and being my daughter doesn't mean being above accountability. She hung up. 15 minutes later, Matthew called. She's having a breakdown, Evelyn. Good, I replied. Sometimes the breakdown comes before the breakthrough. This isn't who you are. No, Matthew. This is who I've always been. You just like the version of me that stayed quiet and paid your bills. This is about Olivia, isn't it? I almost laughed. Olivia? I repeated. Olivia is a footnote in a story I've finally taken back. He kept pushing. Told me Emma was slipping academically, that she needed structure, that she needed the car, that she needed the card, that she needed me. But he didn't say she respected me. And that was the problem. That night, Olivia called again. Rachel, she said, her voice tight. I'm trying to keep things civil, but you're being unreasonable. It's Evelyn, I corrected. Sorry, Evelyn, you need to understand that Emma is under immense pressure. Her future, her mental health. She's learning, I said. For the first time in her life, she's learning how to take care of herself. You can't just abandon her. I didn't abandon her. I just stopped enabling the very behavior that got us here. She's your daughter. And you, I said, are the woman who spent 4 years calling me a failure through her eyes. There was a pause. You were never supposed to be the villain, she whispered. I let that hang in the air. I was never supposed to disappear either. Then I did something that shocked even me. I opened my Dropbox folder labeled Financial Records. Emma exported every document, receipts, transfers, insurance payments, tuition breakdowns, car registration, the works. I attached it all to an email. Subject line, for context. Recipients, Emma, Matthew, Olivia. In the body, I wrote, This is a complete record of everything I've paid for since the day you walked out, Matthew. Emma, if you want to understand why I'm done, read this. Olivia, if you want to play mom, it's your turn to write the checks. I've already paid in full. And I hit send. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just felt free. After sending that email, something inside me shifted. Not with drama or fireworks, quietly. Like a door that had been stuck for years suddenly creaked open and behind it was sunlight. The next morning, I did what I used to do in college. I made a to-do list, but this time it wasn't for Emma. It wasn't for work. It was for me. Sign up for a dance class. Visit that lake cottage rental in Vermont. Buy a real coffee machine. Wear red lipstick without asking who it's for. Host a dinner and invite only people who see me, not need me. That weekend, I bought a dress that hugged my curves not to impress anyone, just to remember I had a shape that was mine. I also went to yoga. My knees popped, I lost balance twice, and I laughed. Actually laughed. Loud. The instructor smiled like she'd seen something come back to life in me. Later that week, I finally opened the website I'd half-built years ago, a budgeting and financial literacy course for single women. I used to work on it in secret between Emma's needs and Matthew's chaos. But I had always convinced myself it wasn't the right time. Now, it was the perfect time. I launched it. I called it Balance Sheet, Balanced Life. Within a week, 27 women signed up for the waitlist, and that gave me more of a rush than any spreadsheet, any tax refund, any tuition payment I'd ever completed. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was building something. Around the same time, Melissa from work invited me to happy hour. I almost said no out of habit. What if Emma called? What if something went wrong? But then I remembered, that wasn't my role anymore. So I said yes. That's where I met Alex. He wasn't flashy or loud. He was an urban planner who spoke softly and listened intently. He asked what I liked, not what I did for others. And when I told him I loved to dance but hadn't in years, he asked if I wanted to go to a swing class sometime. That night, I texted Melissa, "Thank you for reminding me I'm allowed to have fun." A few days later, I received a package at my apartment. Inside was a handwritten card that read, "Ms. Blake, thank you for your incredible work in our women's finance group last week. You reminded me that managing money can feel like reclaiming control over your story. Warmly, Katrina." I sat there holding that card and felt something I hadn't in years. Not guilt, not exhaustion. Pride. Not for what I gave away, but for what I had finally chosen to keep for myself. I hadn't abandoned anyone. I had reclaimed someone. Me. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. I didn't hear from Emma, not a call, not a text. I thought maybe she was done with me for good, and strangely, I was okay with that. I had lived years of being present and invisible at the same time. If she needed silence to grow, so be it. Then, one rainy Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Mom, it's me." Her voice was thin, strained, older. "I'm sorry for calling out of nowhere. I didn't know who else to talk to." I sat down slowly, letting her speak. "I got a part-time job. It's not great. I shelve books at the campus library. $12 an hour. My feet hurt all the time." A pause. "I also had to move into student housing. I couldn't afford the apartment anymore. My roommates left when I couldn't split rent." I took a breath. "Thank you for telling me that, Emma." "It's hard," she continued. "I'm exhausted. I study during breaks. I can't go out with friends like I used to. I eat instant noodles half the week. You're learning how most people your age survive." "I know," she whispered. "I just didn't know how much you were doing until you stopped." Silence again. Then, "Why didn't you ever tell me, Mom? About all the bills, the sacrifices? Why didn't you just yell at me when I was being awful?" I smiled sadly. "Because I thought love meant absorbing the damage. I thought if I stayed quiet and kept giving, you'd eventually understand. And I didn't." "No," I said gently, "you didn't." There was a sound on the line, like a sniff. "I'm sorry, for the restaurant, for all the times I let Olivia act like she was more important. I see it now. She bought me things, but she never stayed up late to help with school projects. She never skipped dinners so I could go to camp. She didn't take me to the ER when I broke my wrist." I nodded, feeling a lump rise in my throat. You did all that, Mom. You did everything. For a moment, I let myself feel it, not the pain of the past, but the weight of finally being seen. Emma, I said, voice low, I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't mean I'll go back to fixing everything. I know, I'm not asking for that. I want to rebuild something. Not based on what I need, just based on who we are. Then come visit this weekend, I said. Bring nothing. Expect nothing. Just come as yourself. Okay. She paused. Also, I saw your website, the budgeting course. You did? It's amazing. I bookmarked it. Some of the other girls in my dorm could really use it. You should be proud, Mom. I was. Not just of the website. Of her, finally. And of me, for finally letting go long enough to let her grow. Saturday afternoon arrived, crisp and golden with early fall light. At exactly 2:00 p.m., I heard a knock on my door. When I opened it, I barely recognized the young woman standing on the other side. Gone was the polished, brand-name gloss. Emma stood there in a gray hoodie, jeans, and sneakers, face bare, eyes softer. In her hands was a small paper bag of pastries. I brought your favorite, she said a little nervously. Almond croissants, from the cafe near campus. I stepped aside and smiled. Come in. She took in the apartment slowly, her eyes drifting to the new rug, the framed art on the walls, the blooming orchid by the kitchen window. You've changed everything, she said quietly. So have you, I replied. We sat on the couch, sipping tea, nibbling the croissants. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore, was respectful, patient. Finally, she spoke. Mom, I wanted to say this in person. I was wrong. For years, I was awful to you. I treated you like an employee instead of a mother. I nodded. Yes, you did. She flinched at the honesty, but didn't retreat. Instead, she took a breath and pressed on. I think I was angry at you for not being exciting, for not giving me the life I thought I deserved. But I never saw what you gave me instead. Stability, safety, everything. Sometimes, I said, it's easier to love the person who says yes than the one who sacrifices quietly in the background. She looked down. I loved you. I just didn't know how to show it. And I didn't know how to ask for it. We sat in that truth for a moment. Will you ever trust me again? She asked. Trust isn't something I hand out anymore, I said. It's something we'll build together. Slowly, as two adults. She nodded, and her eyes shimmered, but she didn't cry. Not this time. This time, she was present. I saw Olivia last week, she added. She's back at work, part-time at a department store. Matthew's stressed out. They're fighting. And how do you feel about that? Emma paused. I feel clear. For the first time. I don't resent you anymore. I don't worship them. I just see what is. I smiled. Later that evening, as I walked her to the elevator, she turned to me. You're really happy now, aren't you? I am. And not because everything is easy, but because everything is mine. Are you still seeing that architect guy? Alex? Yes, I laughed. He's lovely. He listens more than he talks. Refreshing, right? Weird, she joked. Someone sees you as a person, not just Mom. Exactly. I want to get there too. I looked at her and felt something I hadn't in a very long time: hope. Not just for her future, but for ours. You will, I said. One boundary, one choice at a time. She hugged me before leaving. This time, it wasn't performative or guilty, it was real. It was mutual. 3 months later, Emma graduated. She got a marketing job in a modest firm downtown. She split rent with 2 roommates, paid her student loan minimums on time, and occasionally sent me photos of her homemade pasta experiments. We didn't talk every day. We didn't need to. Once a week, she called on Sunday afternoons. We talked like 2 women with separate lives and mutual respect. One Sunday, I received something unexpected in the mail. A card. Inside was a folded letter, handwritten in her now recognizably mature script. Mom, I used to think you were boring, ordinary, safe. But now I know you were extraordinary in all the ways that matter. You gave me everything and asked for nothing. Until the day you asked for your dignity back. That day changed both of us. I love you, not for what you gave me, but for who you are. I cried reading it. Not from pain. From relief. From release. From love the kind that finally came full circle. And as I set the letter on my nightstand beside a lit candle and a new novel, I whispered out loud to the woman I had finally become, I'm proud of you, not for surviving, but for choosing yourself, and never looking back. For years, I believed that being a good mother meant giving endlessly even when it hurt, even when I disappeared in the process. But the truth is, unconditional love does not mean unconditional sacrifice. As we age, many of us carry the weight of decades of giving. To children, to spouses, to family. We mistake silence for strength. But there comes a time when choosing yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. My story is not about revenge. It's about reclaiming dignity. It's about teaching the next generation that love is mutual, not one-sided. That respect must be earned, not demanded. And most importantly, it's about reminding ourselves that we still matter outside of who we've cared for. If you've ever felt taken for granted, if you've ever questioned your worth after giving so much, this story is for you. Please subscribe to our channel for more stories that honor your strength. And share your experience in the comments. What boundary did you finally draw? What did you reclaim?